Hello friends, welcome to Avatar, The Last Airbender, the Extended Edition. I'm Ez.
And I'm Lottie.
And for some of you, this will be welcome back.
But if you're new here, we are husband and wife that run two fandom podcasts together, Shell Cottage Radio, a Cozy Potter podcast, which is a Harry Potter podcast only,
and the Extended Edition, where we bounce from fandom to fandom, but often linger in a galaxy far, far away.
And our current obsession is the Avatar, The Last Airbender show on Netflix.
And today, we are here to break down Episode 6, Masks, and Episode 7, The North. For each episode, we'll give you a quick summary of the events and then share our raw first impressions and thoughts. And this time, I will start us off with a quick summary. Episode 6, Masks. In this episode, Aang secretly enters the Fire Nation and reaches Avatar Roku's shrine with the aid of Sage Shayu, allowing him a crucial meeting with Roku. Unlike the stern Kyoshi, Roku displays a lighter demeanor, though the conversation turns serious when discussing Ko, the face-stealing spirit. Roku reveals he never defeated Ko, but instead escaped with a totem that is significant to Ko, sparking the spirit's anger. This totem symbolizes Ko's mother's spirit and the essence of identity, hinting at the complexities of their personal conflicts. Before Aang can act on this knowledge, he gets caught by the bounty hunter June and taken to Zuko. But then Zhao ambushes them, captures Aang, and takes them to the Pohai stronghold. Later that night, a masked swordsman who turns out to be Zuko comes to Aang's rescue. A dramatic chase begins and the two barely manage to escape, leaving Zuko wounded. This episode takes a closer look at why Zuko was kicked out of his home. He got into trouble for speaking up against a harsh military plan and then had to face his dad, Ozai, in a duel. Ozai scars Zuko's face for being kind, which he sees as a sign of weakness. Even though Zuko often clashes with Aang, we see they actually have a lot in common, especially when it comes to dealing with tough situations. When Zuko goes back to his ship, his crew is really supportive because of everything he's gone through for them. Meanwhile, Aang goes on a mission to fix things with the spirit Ko. He returns the totem to him, ending Ko's anger and freeing everyone he had taken, including Sokka and Katara. The villagers who were captured by Ko are reunited with their families, wrapping up their adventure in the spirit world.
Oh, this is such a masterpiece. And I had to rewatch it again to really capture more of the depth. So, I love the title Masks, the theme of identity, and showing the world your true face versus putting on masks. Because we feel like we have to hide who we really are. And this goes through this whole episode with Zuko, who we see flashbacks of him. And we talked about it earlier, this happy, smiling kid who's just happy to be there, ready to go. And it's his first meeting he can attend, the war meeting. And his dad lets him attend. And there's a little moment between him and Iroh, and he's super excited but nervous. And then his dad kind of throws him off a little bit by asking him directly what to do. And it's his first meeting. He has no clue, really. He just wants to test him. And Zuko doesn't really know what to say because he doesn't have a lot of experience. But what's striking is when the actual war, what do you call them? The guy who's in charge of making the decisions.
The general?
Yeah. When he suggests they sacrifice one of their units without any hope of escape, Zuko's like, this is a dumb plan.
Yeah.
Straight to his face.
It's wrong, actually.
His father is not going to have it.
Yeah, dishonorable.
That was very disrespectful. Plus, not only was it disrespectful to speak up against the commander, but it was also a sign of weakness. He's not ready to sacrifice some of their people. Yeah. And he thinks it's wrong. And he teaches them a lesson. And this whole thing with the masks and face and identity and how his father permanently changes his identity by putting a mark on his face.
Dang.
A burn mark.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, so good. It is in the original. It's nothing that's original to, new to the story, but how they did that was just fantastic.
No, it's how they tell the story. It's how they set it up with masks and identity, and then how his identity shifted from the flashbacks to who we see now, right? And Aang is often saying, you're hurt, and he realizes that there's a lot of hurt behind that scar and behind just Zuko.
He says he even acknowledges he couldn't always have been this way.
Yeah.
And Zuko just, doesn't tell him the whole story, but I love later on the bonding moments between the two. But we also meet Avatar Roku, which is interesting.
He's kind of funny.
He is. I like what Roku says about the Avatar reincarnations. He says, we share the same spark, but we're our own people.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool because that's Aang's journey, right? Again, identity. Who am I? Do I have to be like the other avatars who all say, this is your journey. You have to do this alone.
Yeah.
And you have to be strong and you have to be ruthless. So he doubts himself.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. You know, it's like almost like when he put on, when he's on Kyoshi Island, he puts on a mask in terms of like she becomes him, right?
Yeah.
And she sort of takes over.
True.
Later on in the series, we'll see him want that again from another avatar. And it's like, no, this is not who, you know, you can't take them on. They can't be who you need to be. You can't lean on that. You need to be your own person, right? You need to be Aang.
Yes.
And yeah, you know, the other thing about Roku, which was interesting, is you think with the Fire Nation that he's going to be very super serious and stern and all these different things. He is comical, lighthearted, easygoing. He's the complete opposite from the Fire Lord, and so it's funny. He reminds you actually a lot more of Uncle Iroh.
Yes,
really.
He does. True. Yes, true. No, he's a great character. And it's very interesting, the history of Roku and the connection to the spirit. That's why Aang came to Roku to ask him for help. What can I do? My friends are captured by this spirit called Ko. And this is what triggers Roku, though. There's this story between Roku and Ko, and he says, I can't really help you. But Aang really pleads with him, my friends will be lost without your help. Yeah. So Roku admits that a totem was taken. He took a totem from Ko, and this totem is extremely interesting.
Yeah.
Aang leaves Roku, the spirit world, where he talks to Roku, and we see there is a shelf in the room full of old avatars items that they gathered.
Yeah, belongings.
Belongings. And one of them is that totem that was stolen from Ko. And this totem resembles a great spirit, the Mother of Faces, who's an ancient spirit who made all faces, and it's because of her that identity came into this world. And how brilliant is it that in this episode called Masks, where it's all about identity, that we get to know the spirit, the Mother of Faces.
Right.
And there's a huge story behind this spirit. And do you want me to tell you the mind-blowing connection?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, this spirit has a connection with Zuko's mother.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you briefly the story of Ursa. So the full story of what happened to Ursa, Zuko's mother, is detailed in the comic book series The Search, which is part of the official Avatar: The Last Airbender graphic novel continuation.
Okay.
And I said I've never read them, but in preparation for this episode, and I just stumbled upon it on YouTube, there's a wonderful, awesome video that explains the whole story, because we all are left wondering. And even in the animated show, we see at the end Zuko visiting his father in prison, asking her, where is my mother?
Yeah.
There's never a good answer to it. We never find out if you only watch the show.
Yeah.
So again, I Googled it on YouTube and found this amazing video that explains everything. I'm going to summarize what was said in the video now, but we will link the video down below if you want to watch the full thing. So here's Ursa's story. Zuko's mother, Ursa, was originally from the Fire Nation village of Hira. She loved theater and lived a quiet life as a stage actress. She was then forced into an arranged marriage between her and Fire Lord Ozai, leaving behind her true love, Ikem, and her old life. This marriage, set up by Ozai's father, Fire Lord Azulon, aimed to produce powerful heirs because Ursa is the granddaughter of Avatar Roku.
Wow.
Ursa and Ozai had 2 kids, Zuko and Azula, but life in the palace was tough for Ursa. She struggled with Ozai's harshness towards her and their kids, though she shared a close bond with them, especially Zuko. When Ozai was commanded by Azulon to kill his own son Zuko as a twisted form of punishment, Ursa intervened, poisoning Azulon to save Zuko, which led to Ozai becoming Fire Lord. This act, however, resulted in her banishment, and Ursa returned to her hometown Hira, where she had her appearance changed and her memories erased to protect herself from Ozai. And this change was done by a powerful spirit called the Mother of Faces. She continued living under the new identity of Noriko and remarried her old fiancé, Ikem, who also got a new identity from the Mother of Faces and was now Norin. And they had a daughter, Kai? I don't know, Ki. Years later, after the war was over and Zuko was Fire Lord, he found Ursa with the help of his friends and Azula. They learned her true story from the Mother of Faces, and when the spirit asked Ursa, or Noriko, if she wanted her old memories and appearance back, she agreed. She is reunited with her children, Zuko and Azula, and introduces them to Ki, their half-sister. And this concludes the backstory of Zuko and Azula's mother, Ursa.
Kind of, it's wild. So that is Ko's mother, who she's the Mother of Faces.
Yes.
So the face stealer.
Yeah.
Right, Ko. I mean, that's just sort of, it's a crazy connection. It really is.
And it's just a little totem. They don't mention any of this in the episode.
Right.
But the totem looks exactly like the comic book figure, the Mother of Faces. Exactly the same.
Yeah, same thing. Yep.
So again, if you want to see pictures and some animations with it, I will link the video down below. So go check it out. It's like 10 or 11 minutes long and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So again, the great backstory. There's so many backstories in this. And later on, there is this other connection to Zuko's mother. So when Aang gets captured and Zuko, or AKA the Blue Spirit, frees Aang, he covers his face with a mask, the mask of the Blue Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not 100% confirmed, but the mask is probably Zuko's mother's mask, or at least symbolizes a strong connection to her, because we learned that she was a theater girl.
Right.
And in the comic, you see her, she has lots of masks, a whole collection of masks.
Yeah.
And here's something that I read in a Reddit post, that it's implied in the comic book The Search that Zuko got the original mask from Ursa's belongings. We see that she has an extensive collection of masks from her acting days, and since she had to leave in a hurry, it's possible Zuko found them when he was looking for clues about her disappearance and kept the Blue Spirit mask as a memento of hers. The mask itself is actually a mask from the play Love Amongst the Dragons, which was Ursa's favorite play. It's the mask worn by the dark water spirit who curses the main character, the Dragon Emperor Norin. Okay, interesting. Presumably, since the play was popular in the Fire Nation, it's also known around the world, so the dark water spirit would probably be a common design. That's why there is, I showed this to you earlier in the animated show, there is a short little scene, and this is why also after watching this we have to go back and watch the animated show again, because it's apparently full of Easter eggs, and I have probably not uncovered all of them yet. So there's just a little short scene where it's Iroh and Zuko sitting on the streets, I think of Ba Sing Se, and there's a merchant coming by. Yeah. And there's no zoom on it, nothing. It just rolls by, but some fans have spotted it. The merchant has the Blue Spirit mask in his collection.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
And it's just one little moment, and most of us miss it because we don't take a closer look at it, but if you do, you will see it. And that was pretty cool, pretty mind-blowing, and it's fun to go back and find these Easter eggs, right? You can tell from experience in Star Wars, it's always fun to find the Easter eggs. Yeah.
There's one you said in this episode, right, pertaining to the blue mask. It's actually in the live action. Right? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so they buried the live action mask. You said I haven't seen it because you just said it, and I was like, I don't remember that at all. But you said there's a quick little clip where we see the cart rolling by, and maybe he either gets the mask from that cart or he already had it. Who knows? But
yeah, and it's so this connection of the mask to his mother, and again, it doesn't matter if he has it from his mother's collection, but it definitely symbolizes the connection to his mother and her old life as an actress. Yeah. And what she loved and who she was. So knowing all this gives the last line in this episode of Iroh's voiceover at the end even more depth when he says, "It's not hard to understand why we would put on a mask. What's hard is knowing that sometimes the mask is who you really are." Yeah. Basically saying Zuko is really more like his mother's side. Yeah. He's always seeking approval of his father. But his true identity maybe lies more, I mean, in himself, but what he
more aligned with his mother.
With his mother's.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so
I mean, that's really cool. Like this whole backstory and everything, because you have his mother so Zuko's mother is actually a mother of faces.
Yeah.
She wears many faces in acting.
True.
Right.
True.
She puts on a mask. In terms of like, you know, her arranged marriage, she continues to wear that mask and is stern when she plays the game. And then with her children, she raises them the right way. Comes to a point where she needs to deceive, poison, and save her own children. Yeah. And then goes on the run and goes and finds the mother of faces. Yeah. Right? That's full circle. That's pretty crazy. She is a mother of faces herself. So,
true. That's pretty deep. Yep. I like that. Yeah, so, and then I like the escape action, too. When Aang and Zuko escape, and Aang's bending is amazing. I was surprised they actually did the whole... Stilts. Okay, yeah. And then they go forward, and they have to climb that ladder and go to the next one. It was done in the animated show. I didn't know if they were going to do it, but they did a great job. I love that action.
Looks crazy.
And then after their escape, for some reason, I really like the scene between Aang and Zuko. And that they're starting to bond, and they realize they just are both kind of forced to be who they are right now. With we hear Gyatso says something like, "We can't worry about anyone else's expectations," right? But here they are, the two of them, both with the world's expectations on their shoulders. One to be the Fire Lord's heir, and the other one to be the Avatar. And only because of their expectations is it that they are enemies. Yeah. Not because of who they really are. And it's
good.
Again, this is why I love this so much. Great episode when you dig deeper and find out all the lore. Do you have any thoughts, anything you really, really liked about this episode, or things that you thought were could be improved?
No, I think one of the cooler moments, and it's a small moment. I try to find some small moment that's not huge, right? Yeah. And so it is the priest who is there at Roku's temple that helps Aang. Mm-hmm. I thought he was really cool because he notes that, you know, fire is not meant to dominate the other elements. And you really see that in Roku, in his demeanor, and how he's pretty carefree and easygoing, and he doesn't seem like an imposing, dominating figure. No, right? Yeah. So anyways, it was just kind of cool that he stood up to his elders, and I thought it's a hard thing to do. And if you notice in this last batch of episodes, that's sort of what they're doing. They're confronting the old ways. They're confronting, tradition and stuff, and standing up and saying, this is what's right. Right. Yeah. And even in Aang, having to go back to the other avatars and hearing, I mean, they're his elders, if you will. Like they're kind of, they've done it before, and he's looking to them for advice. And it's so funny because Gyatso is really the only one who I think they all give him good advice, don't get me wrong, but I think he cuts right to the core of like, Aang, you be yourself. Right. You know, and he really turns it back over to him, right, and keeps having him reflect and look inward, right, and find the answers inside of who he is.
Yeah, I can't tell you how to be the Avatar.
Yeah, but all these other avatars are telling him how to be the Avatar, right. And Gyatso is literally the one true master that like can help him see who he needs to be, and it's just being himself. Yeah. Right. I think it's so crazy because you wouldn't think of him as being more elevated or more knowledgeable or whatever than all of the other avatars, but yet he's a simple, humble master who cuts through all of it and all the noise, and he just tells him directly what he needs to do, and it's very simple, but it's the truth. So I thought that was kind of cool. And the other thing that I thought was interesting, I just want to note, in terms of the whole series, I was thinking about. I don't know. For some reason, I'm watching this, and I'm also thinking about Kung Fu Panda, which is crazy. And I was thinking about something that Master Oogway said in the Kung Fu Panda series, which is, one often meets his destiny on the road that he takes to avoid it. And I thought when Aang has a moment at the beginning where he just needs to clear his head, he is just going to fly away on his bison. And ironically, he's sort of not, he's avoiding, but at the same time, he just wants to, I don't want to think about that right now. I just want to get away.
He had no clue that the Fire Nation was going to invade his
No. But that's the connection to that quote is that by chance, sometimes this is just how things work out, that in avoiding our destiny, right, the road that we take, that road of avoidance will often lead us to where we're supposed to go.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, even when you think you're avoiding it, you're not.
Yeah.
Right. And and again, it goes back to Gyatso sort of saying, be you.
Yes.
Just be you. And it's okay. We make mistakes. I think some people have regrets in their life and they think back and so it's like there's a fork in the road, but whatever way you take is your way. It's your path.
Right.
And it's all good. There'll be other paths, other doors, other opportunities in the future. And never look back. Just keep pushing forward. So I just thought that quote kind of fit and connected. And then when we had the Oogway connection last episode, I just thought, might as well pull him back in here. And in general, I really just like the flashback scenes as well. I really think for Zuko's character, it's huge.
Yes.
And this bonding between them. And I feel like when he dueled his father, it's the exact opposite. Compassion and kindness. Those are harder to find during those times where things are hot, where tempers are flaring, right? And for somebody to prevail with a cooler head and to be calm and centered and balanced and to sort of not take the quick and the easy path, it's the dark side.
Yeah.
The dark side is the quick and the easy path, anger, right? And so Zuko starts off as someone who doesn't seek that. He's built up ready to take a harder path, and his father wants the quick, easy, fiery, stronger, in his mind, stronger path. And Zuko was already, by his mother, she had already cultivated all of these really good values in him, and he was ready to take the more honorable, even if it's more difficult path.
Especially in that culture. And you could see that Fire Lord Ozai had a little bit of hope still for his son Zuko. He was trying to teach him up to be his heir, but he loses all hope, I think, when trying to teach him a lesson by giving him that scar, and he's trying to explain to him why he did that. He has to purge this weakness from him.
Yep. It's crazy.
The weakness of compassion. But when Zuko tells him sometimes the weak can become strong, he's like, oh, all hope is lost with this boy.
Yeah.
And he sends him away.
And he says, when he's talking about how he basically says you just need to give people a chance.
Yeah.
And he's just, no.
This is not how we do, this is war. We can't do that.
Right. We can't. Yeah, we're not going to take a chance.
Oh, sorry, you almost forgot. The story of the 41st Division.
Oh, yeah,
at
that's
the
huge.
end.
Huge. And he's, by the way, the actor is, I'm watching him right now on my screen.
Okay.
He's so Dallas Liu is Zuko, and he's crying. He's crying, and he's so upset, right? And that's when he's being told that he needs to take that division. This is the division that was sentenced to die.
This breaks my heart because he's crying, and you know how much it must hurt to cry.
Oh, sure.
Still, they said, yes, his vision will come back, and it will not be affected, but all of this, his whole eye is right now healing and hurt, and he's crying. Yeah. It must hurt so bad. Double. I mean, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's... I don't know. It's a really powerful moment, and Iroh was there to witness it all and understands it, and understands that the reason he's banished is because he stood up for those soldiers, and he saved their lives in an odd way. The 41st is now sent into exile to find the Avatar, an impossible task, but at least they were spared.
They didn't know, though. They didn't know their fate, that they were going to be sacrificed with no hope for them, right?
Zuko doesn't want to put any of that guilt or burden on them either.
No,
he could have, but he chose not to. And
he could have lashed out on them, because of you guys, we're all here, basically. I tried to step up for you guys, and now we're in this mess.
Again, that's where Zuko has honor, though. He knows he holds a high bar for himself and for them, and he holds an even higher bar for the Fire Nation. Yeah. Right. So again, he was brought up in this culture, and so he's battling with all those cultural influences. Right. He's got to overcome. He's got to find the good and then overcome the bad. And that's what we all do in life. It's we're all raised in a certain culture or environment, and we have to seek the good, overcome the things, be self-aware of the things that are kind of harming or hurting, or maybe we're just blind to some of the things that have sort of impacted how we act and behave in the world, right, around us. Great episode, though.
Wonderful.
Just a solid episode. When they come back and they honor him as their prince, and they bow.
It's
Tears. I was like, "Are you kidding me right now?"
And he's like, "What's going on?"
And then Iroh's got to be, he's got to pull a comedy line, which is just like, "They must have missed you, right? They must have missed you on music night or whatever."
And it's
Great.
so interesting. Thank you to the live action show, because I totally missed all these details in the animated show.
Mm-hmm.
I went back and I couldn't believe they were talking about the 41st division, exactly that division. And sometimes I miss things. I admit it. I forget things or miss them, like little details like that.
Yeah.
And now I finally understand it.
It's all
this
of us.
is the crew that he saved.
Yeah.
It's just so good.
Yeah, it actually lands more. I feel like there's a more with the live action show. They take those moments that there's a lot of moments. There's a ton of moments in the animated series because there's more episodes. There's more time to do it. But in this, they had to take and pull those moments that really are central to the characters and amplify them. And they definitely did that. That's where that's the mark of a great show.
Right.
And a great adaptation. So yeah. Okay.
All right.
Cool beans. So that was that was episode 6, and now we're on to episode 7, The North.
The King of the North.
The King of the North. Okay, ready? This episode starts with a shocking twist. It looks like Zuko has died, but it turns out to be a trick plotted by Zhao, leading to an explosion on Zuko's boat. Thanks to Iroh's quick thinking, Zuko is actually safe, hiding in plain sight among his own crew, which means we don't see him for the rest of the episode. Meanwhile, Aang, Katara, and Sokka arrive in the Northern Watertribe's capital, Agnikela, and meet Chief Arnuk, his daughter Yue, and the waterbending master Pakku. Each of our main friends has their own challenges to face in this episode. Aang talks to Avatar Kuruk, who shares his own sad story about losing his love, Umi, to the scary spirit Ko, the Face Stealer. This makes Aang think that he should take on the Fire Nation by himself to protect his friends. Sokka finds himself liking Yue, who turns out to be part spirit, and they share a special moment with a kiss. Katara is excited to learn waterbending, but finds out the girls in the tribe are only expected to heal, not fight. She doesn't accept this and ends up dueling Pakko to prove her point, earning respect from everyone watching. As the episode ends, the threat of the Fire Nation attack becomes real, with soot falling from the sky. Katara and Sokka decide they're going to stand by Aang and fight, showing they're all in this together. This episode mixes personal stories with the bigger picture of the upcoming battle, highlighting themes of friendship, standing up for what you believe in, and preparing for what's coming next.
I think the best part really was for me seeing the Northern Watertribe. Again, I loved how they did the Southern Watertribe, that small little village, and turn it into something more real, more like bigger. And still, it's not huge. You can tell there's only a few people left there. It used to be a big culture, almost like the Northern Watertribe.
Yeah.
And now we see what the Southern Watertribe could have been, or was at one point.
Right.
This grand culture, and a beautiful city of ice. And they have, they have teachers, they have healers, they have fighters, they have like a what do you call him? Not a king, but the elder, or
the chief.
The chief, the leader of them. They have a grand hall where they hold their feasts. They have the kitchens downstairs. And you know what? I love the cute interaction in the kitchen with Yue and Sokka.
Yeah.
I would want to be her friend. I can't tell you. I don't know. Yue in the animated series, I was not a huge fan of hers.
Yeah.
She's nice and all, but for some reason, this version of her, I just like her a lot.
Yeah.
And I like how she
connects really well.
Yes, she does. And she cares for people, but she also admits, I sometimes need a break. I just sometimes need to be myself and not put on a mask, right?
Yeah,
it's all about this. I got this whole theme about having a mask, and yeah,
she's up there and she's basically like, I have to get all kind of serious, and she does this little like hand bow thing, like
great.
Rolls her eyes.
Yes, it's great. I
we
love
need the
that.
blessing. All right, here I come. Let's recite the old blessing. But yeah, she's cool. I think she does really connect well with Sokka, and she does care about her people.
Yeah,
and I love that we get that spirit world connection.
Yes,
too.
She is part spirit. It's super cool. I love her spirit form, the fox. We talked about it a couple of episodes ago, and also the scene in the kitchen. For some reason, it reminds me of Downton Abbey. I can't help it, but they're down in the kitchen, the elder, or the people that are just
the servants,
normal servants,
doing
their thing, and she's right among with them. And I love that's what I loved about Downton Abbey, that there was with the family.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they were above the kitchen staff, but
Yeah.
they also sometimes came down, just wanted to know how they're doing.
Yeah, and there's
And I
more of a
thought that was-
connection.
yes.
Yeah, there's not this huge separation. They are separate.
Yeah.
They have different roles. They both are loving what they do, and there's a hierarchy there. But she sort of transcends that, and she'll go from the feast, sitting at the front table, all the way down to just sort of hanging out there. So
I just thought it was great how they did that.
yeah, like it.
And then it was pretty cool how Aang meets again a new form of the Avatar, his old form, Kuruk.
Mm-hmm.
And Kuruk is really interesting because I remember saying to you, wouldn't it be cool if they changed the end a little bit, because we've seen epic Kyoshi, how she takes over for a second and saves her village.
Yeah.
Kuruk, Yue tells us that Kuruk is not very well known, or at least like people don't really pay their respects to Kuruk anymore because they feel like he was just never around. He was in the spirit world all the time, and no one really knew why. But Kuruk, yes, he was distant.
Yeah.
And Kuruk tells Aang the full story, that he was protecting his people from evil spirits that were about to cross over to their world. And he basically spent his life fighting them, trying to protect them, learned he couldn't really protect everyone he loved, especially Umi. She was taken by Ko, and he has all these wounds. Yeah. So I told you, I was hoping he could redeem himself by taking over for Aang, instead of Aang becoming one with the water spirit.
Yeah.
And becoming this monster. He could just channel Kuruk, and Kuruk could come back and show his people, like, no, he's been there the whole time. But unfortunately, he can't. He said he could not control the Avatar state more than Aang can because of his wounds.
Yeah, and his spirit had been corrupted a little bit too.
Yes.
Because of this fight. This fight had taken a huge toll on him.
Yeah.
I mean, I looked at him and I was like, lone wolf.
Yes.
Right? He is just a lone wolf who was out there and had to fight this fight alone. And then his love was stolen from him too. Yeah. And so he's just completely beat up. But he knew that his calling and his time was a time where he had to save the spirit world.
Right.
And so his legend and legacy and the respect that he gets, it's something he has to kind of...
Yeah.
He doesn't get to enjoy those things, or he doesn't get the that relationship with the world and the community around him. He had to go be alone and very distant. But also his fight was just as significant and just as meaningful. I mean, it was very important that he stood against those evil spirits. Right. In the spirit realm. We find out actually that the Avatar and the Avatar state pales in comparison to like the moon spirit and these other greater spirits that are like our natural elements and stuff, that without them the world falls apart completely,
out of balance.
And so it sort of puts the Avatar second to all of those
elements. You could almost argue his fight was bigger than against the Fire Lord, because the Fire Lord is also only human and can only do so much damage, while spirits can absolutely shake the world out of balance. But what this meeting with Avatar Kuruk and the other avatars prior, what the meetings with Aang teach us, or I feel like they're supposed to teach us, is that each of the avatars, they had their own experiences, and they can only give Aang their wisdom from their prior experience. They don't know what Aang's situation is like. And they can't give advice that's perfectly suited for Aang's personality and I don't know, his own belief systems, his own situation. Again, it's different from Kuruk's. Kuruk might have made the right decision in his position.
He did.
Maybe Aang would have to do the same thing had he been, like, his world been invaded by spirits.
Yeah.
But Aang chooses a different path, and he's the only one who can take certain things from the wisdoms from the others, but he has to find his own way.
Right. So here's a quote from another great master out in various fandoms, Gandalf, who says, "All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us." Yeah. So this is Aang's time, right? So he has to, as you're saying, deal with his time.
Yeah.
Right? Kurik's time is different from Roku's time, which is different from Kyoshi's time.
Yeah.
So this is Aang's time. They can advise and give general advices and talk about their time. He has to decide what to do with the time that has been given to him.
Yeah.
And that's what Gandalf tells everyone in Lord of the Rings. And so it's like, it's cool to see those themes sort of transcend and to go from fandom to fandom. And it's what makes an epic story. It's sort of our story of life here, and that we have to decide. We're given this life. We have to live it. You know? We have to be present. So
that's perfect, actually, because that's what Sokka later on tells Katara. So he admits to Yue that he had a painful memory, right? His dad's disappointment that he wasn't cut out to be a warrior and that he didn't believe in him.
Yeah.
It's hard to admit it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Yue tells him, don't make it anything less than it is.
Yeah.
It is a painful memory you have to face. But later on, Sokka tries to comfort Katara right before she challenges Pakku. And he says to her, it doesn't matter what other people think. It doesn't matter if Dad didn't think I'd be a great warrior, but I can still be great in some way.
Mm-hmm.
The point is, I get to decide. Just like you get to decide who you are, not Pakku or anyone else.
Mm-hmm. It's
great freaking lines.
Yep. I know. This series is literally littered with good wisdom and advice, and it had to be. And I think every episode you can pull out multiple quotes, and it's really a good story. I think one of the things, we were watching an interview the other night with Mark Hamill, who was talking about being Fire Lord Ozai.
Oh, mind-blowing. I didn't know that.
Mind-blowing that he is actually the Fire Lord in the animated series. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
So I was like, and then when I went and listened, I was like, oh my God, that's him. But one thing that he said is he didn't think that this would really get past episode 4, because he said it was too smart. He said it spoke up to children.
Yeah.
And it actually empowered them, right? And it didn't downplay them. It literally was so well written and crafted and designed. He had great respect for it, and he was like, the lessons and the stories and the wisdom being passed in here and through this, I think he had the foresight to say, yeah, it's amazing, but like, is that what we do? And do we make amazing TV shows like this anymore that are inspiring? And he was, kind of just sort of, I think he's very happy that it did obviously take off, but he was just like, when he first read it, he was like, wow, it's too good. It's too good. It's too, so, and it's just, so I love it. I love that we're bringing out these quotes or these moments that are taking our young characters and helping them prepare for a greater fight, and looking inward and seeing who they are and what they need to do in this time. And this episode is full of that. I mean, every character has their moments, and they're also battling the culture right now in the North. They're battling like Pakku.
Yeah.
Who jerk. I get him out of here. Who is this guy? By the end, he turns out to be all right. But I mean, what a freaking jerk, dude.
Yep.
Just bound to custom, right? I don't know if you had notes on that or not, but I mean, he was something else.
Oh, I just said, what do you think about the fight between Pakku and Katara?
Well, I think it's awesome. Okay, I think it's an absolute epic fight, and I think she whooped him. Yeah. And I think, again, she's way younger.
Yes,
she's
way more inexperienced.
Only trained by her scrolls and her grand, essentially, right? I mean, just through the scrolls. And she stands toe-to-toe. She has experience. The one thing that Han wants from Sokka is his experience.
True. His
right?
War experience, or, experience with the enemies. Not just, hey, we're fighting, but we're actually not enemies. It's not for life. We're not fighting for our lives.
Yeah,
we're
and you look how
training.
Those are opposite, right?
Yeah.
So Han wants the experience from Sokka because he's a man.
Yeah.
But Pakku doesn't want the experience from Katara because she's a woman.
Yeah.
And Katara fights that, and she fights that culture, and it's huge.
It is good.
And you actually find out when she's confronting one of the other elders who is training her in healing, and she's like, well, the fact that I'm not able to fight is wrong.
Yeah.
That's wrong. And she doesn't say that it's right. She says, like, this is how things are done.
How we've
always done it. She doesn't say... She doesn't disagree with her. She just makes a statement that this is how it's done.
Yeah.
And later on, we find out that secretly they all have really felt like they should have been more progressive and moved forward, and that they could help during this time. And it's silly to think that they can't.
Yeah, it's really like trying to break through these old gender roles and just really listen to your calling. Like some of the guys might be called to heal, right? He might be great at healing, but he never finds out because he's just automatically, because he's a boy or a man, automatically put in the group of fighters.
Right. One of the great things I love about the Wheel of Time series, which actually has a lot of connections to Avatar, as I think about the Wheel of Time and being born again and reincarnate. I love, it's awesome. And so, but in that, you had a lot of male characters who were male channelers, and if they were skilled in healing, that was elevated, and they were males, right? And so they were skilled in that craft. And then in the Green Aja, they were skilled warriors, so we elevated them. They were warriors,
right?
And they had their specialities versus just lumping everyone based upon gender into one role or the other. And they had to kind of see beyond that. The other thing that's interesting is that Katara's mother, you know, I mean, I was waiting for her to kind of say, like, you know, the women in our tribe had to fight. There came a moment where we were like slaughtered and killed, and we had to stand up. Like, you can say that the women don't fight, but they had to in my tribe. They were forced to, right?
Yes.
So,
and I love how Katara goes back and says, "Oh no, I didn't mean to downplay what you do. Healing is super important, especially in war. We need, you know, we saw what she could do with that wound. It was pretty deep. It was bleeding still, and she had some of her healing water." And within minutes, it was gone. That's amazing. I mean, and I like how Katara says, "No, I didn't mean it like that. I think it's super important." She just thinks her own skills lie more in combat.
Absolutely.
So it was very, very well put. Yeah. So the fight between them just looks sick. There's only one little jump maybe that looked a little wonky, but otherwise it was amazing how they put that into live action, because it was a pretty epic fight in the original animated show, and they did a really good job. Again, I can only imagine how hard it must have been to bring that to life without looking really weird. The last thing I want to mention about this episode is really the tension between Azula and her father. We get just little glimpses of that, where her father just keeps telling her it's not enough. She needs more challengers, and tomorrow she will be challenged again. And finally she says no. And she shows that she mastered a highly advanced firebending technique. The conjure of lightning, right? Conjuring and guiding lightning. Yeah. And that shows her dad that she's trying to show him she's capable of far more than he thinks. And then she asks him permission to leave the palace and show him what she can do out there. Yeah. She feels cooped up. She feels dangerous. Like she's ready. And her dad needed her to get to that point.
Yeah. He was pushing her basically to say, like, enough is enough, and the games are over, Dad, and it's time for you to move on. She kept playing the games, waiting for him to kind of say, all right, now you're good, and like to give her some sort of approval. And he was never going to give it to her. He was going to put her through that endlessly until she said enough is enough. Right. That's what he was trying to get to.
And her friends are very smart. They caught on to that.
Yeah.
They told her, he's playing you. Aren't you seeing that?
Yeah, stand up to him. Yeah, he wants you to stand up to him, actually. And then when she does, ends up being good. So
pretty cool. Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to kind of mention, I mentioned the Paku fight there, and the sort of that just going against the norms and going against tradition. The other thing was just Yue. Yue, you had mentioned her in the beginning. I want to mention her as well, and the whole moment with her and Sokka. I think Sokka is hilarious. You know, she's talking about the spirit world, and he's like, "Oh yeah, the spirit world. Yeah, real fun. You know, just like," and I'm like, wow. I think he's funny. I actually think he does a really good job, and his lines are really good. But he's just like, I don't know. He goes through the list of things where he almost got, his face tore off by a monster. Sure, Yue, fun, a lot of fun. You go be a fox and dance around with your three tails. So,
and it's so funny because she's right. Her part when she meets Sokka, it just feels like calm and peaceful. But when he goes to face his memories and then Ko gets him, that's where it turns scary. So I feel like she's kind of protected because she's a spirit being.
Yes, and he's not a spirit being, and he's there, and so therefore he's a target. But she's more in the element there. She belongs there, actually. So that was cool. But in general, too, I wanted to say that the whole Northern Kingdom, when you look at the backdrops in the setting and the set or whatever, just when they're all meeting and preparing their war council and stuff, it is gorgeous.
Yes, it is.
It's really beautiful. It's not even just as you approach the city and seeing all of it. They then had to go inside and design all these different sets. And I mean, I just feel like Netflix did not spare a single penny on this. Or I'm sorry, that they, what's the right phrase there? I don't even know. But they spent a lot of money on this show is what I'm trying to say. because it just looks good. All the
Yeah.
costuming, all the sets, everything looks solid. And I thought episode 1, I was like, okay, they really got us with some high definition bending, and we got to see very close-up shots that were really, really solid. Like the visual effects were great. And I thought, well, it might dip down through. No, it never dips. It's still really good all the way throughout, and I just love it. Just love it. So
I can agree. Yeah.
there we go. All right, friends. Well, hey, that is sort of our breakdown of episode 6 and episode 7. We got one more episode, right? So we're going to be back with
season finale.
Yeah. So thank you guys for extending your Avatar experience with us. We'll see you here in just a few for season 1 finale, episode 8, Legends. If you have thoughts you'd like to share those with us, then send us a message to theflannelwizard@gmail.com. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at The Extended Edition. And as always, remember,
Yep.